Hi, welcome. Today we've got Will Ricketts, 2021 left-hand pitcher out of Jefferson High School in West Virginia, Frostburg State baseball commit in the Mountain East Conference. Buddy, I appreciate you spending some time with us today, Will.
Of course, I'm excited to be here.
Sure. So everybody, we try to get people's recruiting stories. We try to hear from different guys, different levels. Everybody's got that unique story. So we appreciate you spending some time and walking us through yours. Start us out with a little bit of background. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Well, my family, we live in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. My mom, Sunshine, my dad, Brent. I have my sister, Elizabeth, and I just have a dog and a cat.
Actually, now wait a minute. So your mom's name's Sunshine.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Now is that a family name? You got a story to go with that?
Her parents were hippies.
Awesome.
If it wasn't for their van breaking down, she would have been born at Woodstock. So she's really embraced the Sunshine name. We all call her Miss Sunshine because she always just brightens everyone day. She's a middle school teacher, so she's got to always be in that good mood.
That's fantastic, man.
Yes,
So
sir.
so obviously 2021, man, tough year for recruiting, right?
It was
We
crazy.
we had COVID. You missed a whole year, and then we've got limited ability for coaches to get out and see you. So tell me a little bit about when you look back, some of the highs and lows. Where was the lowest point for you?
My lowest point was definitely junior spring, kind of starting to go into the summer, had no offers, not even any interest really. I was really just cranking out emails every day, following coaches on Twitter, but wasn't really getting anything back. I mean, I was texting and emailing the coach at every division every day. Um, and really it's just kind of weird to think of like, hey, is this really like the end of the road for me? Like you think you're good enough, but you kind of question it when those very few coaches are calling back or texting back, and even when they are, it's really just basic generic emails. So it was definitely a little scary, but I definitely think with COVID, it kind of threw everyone off. I don't think even the coaches knew what to do really till like June, July when the whole virtual recruiting started to pick up. But definitely for me, it was just kind of weird. Like, yeah, I would be trying to crank out like 20, 25 emails a day, 20, 25 coaches to follow on Twitter, and just nothing. It was just really crazy for sure.
Sure. So then obviously there's some of the higher times where things happen. Can you think back? What were some of the high points when you look back at that recruiting process?
I mean, definitely the highs. It was, I would say, my first offer at the Division 2, Division 3, my first NIA offer, first JUCO offer. Um, I got really excited, got on a phone call with the Division 1 coach. So I went from someone in a span of 3 months from thinking, oh, maybe I won't be playing college ball to I've talked to a coach from every division at this point.
Excellent, excellent. That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about your bio. What's some of the measurables? What progress have you made? Maybe start like where you've been, like the first part of high school, and then where you're at now. That kind of got coaches excited to come see you play.
Well, when I first came in as a freshman at Jefferson, I was about the same height. I was probably about 180, ran about a 7 flat 60. So right away, I got thrown in the outfield. I could hit for power. I could just hit constantly. So they really saw me developing in the outfield, but I've always been a pitcher, and I've always been working with different things. I've always been a unique pitcher. Um, but I really didn't focus on pitching till probably about the summer of my sophomore year. I played on a local travel team, the Jefferson Cubs, and we were kind of low on pitching, so I was kind of a guy that started to learn how to pitch. My pitching coach, Sam Walls, his son, Sammy Walls, played in the Phillies organization. He was just a great mentor. I've known him since Little League, and he really kind of developed me as the unique person I am. Um, Starting that summer, I was never good throwing overhand. So one tournament, I was like, let's try something. And I kind of lowered my arm slot to about a 3/4. And I mean, I went out there, I pitched all 3 days in the tournament, did great. We won more games in a tournament than we ever had before. And I kind of started thinking, hey, this is something that I'm good at. Maybe it was never supposed to be over top. It was supposed to be 3/4. And then progressively throughout the summer, it just got lower and lower till I was throwing sidearm half the time. Um, so that's really where I found my identity as a pitcher, was coming from the side. The only problem with it was the velo was a lot slower. I was probably about 73, 75 in that range most of the time. And then when COVID hit, going into my junior year, I was working out with the same guy and his grandson. They had this giant building on their property that we would work out every day in, hitting, pitching. They had a nice little turf field that we would take ground balls on. It was really helpful, definitely. Um, if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have developed what I have. But throwing bullpens, I was thinking maybe seeing what happens if I threw over top again. I've been lifting a lot more since sophomore year, and I definitely started to like throwing overhand again. So before our first tournament or our first game, I was like, why not do both? Why not both throw from the over top and sidearm? And so that really took off. I got gunned at the beginning of the summer going into my junior year. I was sitting about 80, 81, and it progressed to about 82, 83 at the end of summer. Um, with my sidearm still being about 78, 79. So I had that few miles per hour difference in the arm slots, but I still think it was great because no batter. My rule was my with my catchers was no batter should see the same arm slot or the same pitch from the same arm slot. So that was
Yeah,
really my
yeah.
big thing. And then kind of at towards the end of the summer, I played on the Blue Ridge Generals organization. Our head coach was Mike Smith. He's the coach of the Winchester Royals, and I was kind of our number one guy for most of our tournaments. So I just think over the years, I kind of really went from that outfield hitting role to a PO role. That's what I pretty much am now, and I mean, I didn't look back, honestly.
So as far as the interest, you talked about, hey man, you're trying to communicate, you're reaching out to a lot of different coaches, trying to find maybe something that fits, start a conversation. Was it the velo jump into the 80s that finally kind of maybe got a little attention or got a little respect?
I definitely think it was that, but over the spring and summer, I was throwing out a Twitter video every week of me just throwing a bullpen, putting the updated measurables. And one thing the coaches really liked from when I started talking with them past that point was they really liked the overhand and sidearm. They never really have seen a pitcher that drew two arm slots in the same batter.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot when I talk with college coaches, they're always looking for guys with something unique. Either it's an
mhm,
arm slot, something different in their mechanics, something that maybe a batter hasn't seen, especially for a guy coming out of the pen, especially maybe a lefty setup guy or a specialist. Something that's different that throws some hitters off. So that
mhm.
definitely kind of catches guys' eyes. Excellent. So when you look back on your process, what were two or three things that you did that you feel like really made a difference in your recruiting process that you actively
Twi-
did yourself?
Twitter, and Twitter. um, Most definitely, my number one would be Twitter. I was really surprised. I didn't really use Twitter much before, but I mean, now still, I'm on it every day. Like Twitter really is what kind of changed everything for me, and I kind of realized like all these coaches, especially being at home during COVID, especially when after those 3 weeks when we were all in the house, we kind of got sick of the family members. You kind of had to do something. That's just all they were on, and I mean, like it was crazy, especially with some of the Twitter handles that you can tag. They'll repost you. I was getting 2,000 views on just pitching bullpen videos. um, so definitely Twitter. I was also on NCSA. and I have to give a lot of credit to them. They were a very helpful organization. My recruiting coach, Andy Drake, he was very helpful throughout the whole process. Um, I was always on the phone with him, texting him. He was always talking to coaches for me, seeing if anything was sparking anywhere. But he also just gave me a lot of advice and a lot of good things to know about the recruiting world that I probably wouldn't have figured out on my own, or at least as soon as I did.
So walk me back to the Twitter. So, how specifically did the Twitter? So, did you get coaches that actually DM'd you based on videos you were tweeting? Was that just an opportunity for them to see you play, and they communicated with you differently? Was that an actual communication vehicle with Twitter?
Yes, most definitely. It kind of sucks because I lost my Twitter on my birthday. It locked me out and I could never get back into it. So I had to make a new account. But like the list I had of my direct messages with college coaches, it's like I could scroll for a minute and just get to the bottom. It really blew my mind just how often and how much time they spent on Twitter just looking for guys because they couldn't go out and watch any games because there weren't any. So they had to do it another way.
Excellent, excellent. So when you look back at your relationship, even with Frostburg State there, where you've committed, what was the big break with them? What was it you think that got their attention to kind of give you some real interest?
Well, it's funny because the pitching coach, Dean Peterson, he over the summer was the pitching coach at Allegheny College. And that was my first contact with him. He was supposed to go to a showcase I was going to. Um, and so I emailed him. I said, "Hey coach, I'm going to this showcase. Here's some video. Really interested in Allegheny." And that was just my email. And he emailed me and actually said, "Hey, sorry, Will, I just found out from the university I can't go to the showcase this weekend. Really bummed. I watched your video and I really like what I see. I've sent it on to our head coach and we'll be in touch soon." And that was the last time I heard from him until probably about 2 months, a month and a half before I committed. He texted me. He got my phone number and texted me. He said, "Hey, Will, this is Dean Peterson. You originally talked to me at Allegheny College. I just want to let you know I'm at Frostburg State University now in Maryland." He goes, "I showed your video to our head coach and he absolutely loves what he sees. He wants to know if you can come for a visit as soon as possible."
Excellent. So,
Yeah.
and man, I tell you what, especially the assistant coaches and a lot of head coaches too, it's amazing how many times, even, especially guys who get recruited early, how many coaches change just in that
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 year period there that you're getting recruited. So excellent. So walk me through. So they wanted you to get on campus. Now with COVID, were you able to get on campus, or how did the visit part work?
Yes, we were able to get on campus. It took a little bit longer because they had to request to the administration to get us on. They had all these guidelines, but we were able to get on campus. We were able to get around the whole school. We just weren't able to get into a dorm or a classroom, but that seemed like that was the same for every other school in the country. But I mean, we had a great talk. We were probably there 3, 4 hours. A lot of it was just talking the whole time and really kind of picking each other's brains on everything. I mean, my parents were involved. They encouraged my parents to get involved in everything we were talking about. And I mean, it really just showed like how much they were interested and how much they were dedicated in my potential. And just also their facilities. It was there from all the visits I was on, definitely top two facilities. They really show that they care about development, recovery, and that it's a school that also cares about their students, and not just the baseball side, but the recreational side, the indoors of the buildings. It just really showed like they cared about students being there and it looking nice.
So as you look back along the path, were there a couple mistakes you made along the way that you might say, "Man, that was I probably shouldn't have done that," or "I didn't do that right"? Something that you can maybe warn some maybe upcoming freshmen or sophomores to avoid.
I would say there was definitely two mistakes I made along the way. Was maybe some days it was too many emails. Um, I always made every email as personal as possible, but there were still some times you would look back at it, you're like, maybe it looks a little too generic, and maybe that's why they didn't respond. But that's just kind of something that's a judgment call, because I know
Sure.
there's a lot of coaches that'll just get generic emails every day, and it's the same with players. Like with camps, you really got to figure out what's actually meant for you, and what was something that 200 other kids got. So
So,
that was definitely one thing. But also my other thing was maybe not communicating enough. Maybe not to the point of being annoying, but definitely hitting up the coach every once in a while if I didn't hear back from them, or if we were talking and something died. I know that was my mistake. I had a school I was really interested in, and the coach said, "Hey, give me some contacts, some people I can call." And I gave him some contacts, and I didn't really think of it till like a month later, and then I saw that they had a left-handed pitcher commit like the next day. So that was my thing: is don't be annoying, but always make sure you're kind of on top of things and keeping ahead of communicating with coaches. Because I mean, it's the same with coaches. They talk to so many kids during the recruiting process. I know, like, especially for the Division 1, Division 2 level, sometimes kids will just slip out of their mind for a day and then it's just gone. So that was my thing: was definitely I should have been a little more proactive with certain coaches.
so when did the recruiting process start for you? When did you feel like, hey, I think I can play at the next level, and I really need to start trying to figure this out?
I mean, my goal was always to play in college, especially when I stepped in freshman year. I knew I was gonna play somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. And truthfully, I didn't know where I was gonna play even with all my offers till the day I finally said Frostburg is it. Like even the night before, I was like going between 5 schools probably.
At what point in time did you feel like, hey, I think I can play at the next level? And then when did you actually start, hey, I need to start learning about this recruiting thing and figuring out what I need to be doing?
I was not going to be one of those kids that wanted to stop playing. I mean, I want to play for as long as I possibly can. I want baseball to be in some aspect of my life for as long as possible. So I always knew I was going to play somewhere. I just didn't know where. And even the night before I committed, I was still like, am I sure? Like, going through everything one more time. We had a pros and con list of every school, everything financially. They said and I would just keep going through it every day. Um, but I made my decision, and it was the best decision, no doubt in my mind. But I really think everything started to pick up for me once again going into my junior year. That's when I got on NCSA. I was sending out emails. I was figuring out what I wanted to do, what schools were a good fit for me, where I wanted to go. Um, I know there's stories of a lot of kids who the closer to home is better, but I wasn't going to say no to an opportunity just because of distance. So it was really just kind of figuring out where.
So as you were looking through, how did academics play a part in your recruiting?
Very big. It was a very big deal. I knew what I was going to major in without a doubt. So it was kind of easy to mark some schools off if they didn't have my degree. But I mean, my degree's it was very broad. I'm going to be majoring in business administration. So it's one of those degrees that
Most
it's more than likely at the school. Um, but I mean, I did want to focus on academics because there is a time when baseball is going to end and that degree will be important. So that was the number one priority over anything, especially in my parents' eyes, was making sure I did get a good education. It
so
was
so as you start looking at those decisions, how big a help was that on the financial side as you started work comparing schools? Did the academic side offer some money that made one school better than another school?
yeah, definitely. I have a 3.9 GPA, so almost every school I talked to, they were telling me top merit scholarship, pushing out all the scholarships they give for 3.9 and above GPA students. So it kind of came around the same price for everyone, which honestly, the academics and the financial kind of made the decision harder because it made everyone kind of even.
Sure. Yeah, and a lot of people, at least especially young parents and young players, don't really understand. So, with baseball being an equivalency sport, you know, Division II, Division I schools, NAI, they have limited number of scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, D3, is not giving out athletic scholarships, but so guys only get partial scholarships. So that academic, if you're good academically, man,
It's
that
huge.
allows a coach to put a nice package together. Or he knows, hey, I don't have to put as much baseball money in because this guy's going to qualify for these four scholarships. Is going to make school a lot more affordable for his family.
And exactly, and that's what college coaches love because I mean, I believe for the Division I, Division II, I believe it's only 11.7 scholarships. I think for Division II, it's lower. So you got 30, 35, 40 man rosters that you're trying to get everyone a little piece of something. And so academics are just absolutely huge. SAT, AC scores, whatever you can get, anything will help you, no matter if you think it's bad. Put it out there and see what happens. There's always room to improve. Take AP, take college classes, whatever will help you just a little bit. It's just saving you money. And honestly, like for me, I'm an AP student, so I'm already looking into the fall. I can have a smaller load for in the spring and take more classes than I would in the fall. So anything will help really on the academic side because that GPA or that SAT score could really determine between getting an offer or not.
Sure. So when you look, what you remember back, what was the first thing you did in the recruiting process? Did you call a coach, email? What was step one for you?
My first step really, and I started on NCSA was just emailing anyone that had my degree, had what I thought was a good baseball program. Just emailed them, sent out a very basic structure of an email, just introducing myself, telling about my measurables, where I'm from, my class, my position, the fact that I threw overhand and sidearm, and really just told them what I liked about their program and gave them any means of contact that I could. I mean, I was putting email, phone number, Twitter handle, anything in there just so they can contact me.
So how's that work with it? You mentioned you worked with NCSA. So how's that work on the communication side? Does that email get sent within NCSA, or do you send that directly through your personal email? How does that work?
The one thing I've really liked about NCSA is you send it through NCSA. They give you an email, they give you like an email address that goes straight to your inbox. But the one thing I really liked about it was it told you when the coach opened it. And if they looked at your profile, if they followed you after reading your email, if they watched your video, it really kind of gave you an idea how interested they were just by if they opened your email or not.
Now from a communication standpoint, how much communication came within the system through NCSA, and how much communication just came from, your high school coach making a phone call or a travel team coach? Was it mostly within NCSA? Was it mostly outside? What kind of split would you put on that?
I would probably say a 90 to 10 split NCSA. Um, that's kind of how every basic communication started. There were a few instances where my high school coach and my travel coach would reach out to some coaches, but it would normally start through NCSA and then it would either go to me and then to my coaches, but definitely NCSA just sending out emails.
Sure. And do they provide like templates to pick from, and then you're just kind of filling in information? Do you create that from scratch? How's that work within that system?
You create it from scratch, but they do a lot of seminars online where they'll kind of go over everything and they'll basically show you templates of what to use, basically kind of give you a general outline of what you should be writing, what you should and shouldn't include. But every email was hand typed from start to finish by me, and it took a while, and I was very thankful to have some classes with some free time my junior year where I could just sit there and crank out 5 to 10 emails in a class period. So it definitely helped a lot.
So, talk about how instrumental your coaches were in the process, either through a reference or making phone calls. Maybe talk about your high school coach and then maybe your travel team coach.
Well, definitely in the state of West Virginia and the surrounding areas, pretty much any college coach knows who John Lowry is. And so that was definitely good, kind of saying, yeah, I played at Jefferson High School under John Lowry, because they kind of know how we run things at Jefferson. They know it's, in my opinion, it's a college program as a high school team, how we practice, how we condition. We really only have 2, 3 months off from high school ball, and that's just our summer. I mean, in the spring we'll play our full 32 game season. In the fall we'll have our fall development teams playing, and then in the winter we'll lift and condition, and we'll probably start our spring practices in January. So it's just a constant cycle. It kind of really prepares you to play at the college level and kind of gives you an idea of what to expect and the kind of dedication you need to give. He definitely was just the name that you, if a coach knew you played at his program, you knew you were a good guy, or you were at least a hardworking guy coming out. And my travel coach, Mike Smith, he coaches at the Summer Collegiate League and the Valley League. So he definitely had a lot of contacts of coaches, and he got me in contact with quite a few guys just over the summer. So he definitely helped a lot.
Sure. So you mentioned your travel team coach. So how important was travel baseball, you think, in your recruiting process, both from a showing that you can play against maybe a little bit higher level competition than high school baseball, and also from the standpoint of the connections that you're able to make there.
I mean, yeah, summer travel ball is the greatest time to be playing in front of coaches, because they just finished up their season. They're eager to get more kids out. You're playing in the summer. You're playing against, in my opinion, the best competition, no matter where you're playing. We played a few teams over the summer. It was from top to bottom. Their roster was Division I commits. So, I mean, I love those kind of games because you're really evaluating yourself, how you did in that game. um, but I think the one thing about playing 18U baseball was you can go one game where you're seeing 92, and then the next game you're seeing 74. So you never got the same thing. So it was really about adjusting. And I think that was one thing that was really good to play in front of coaches, was if they watched those back-to-back games, they saw that adjustment and how fast you can make an adjustment out there.
So talk to me. You mentioned you put a lot of video on Twitter. How was what kind of recruiting did you make? Any other recruiting videos, or was it just workout videos? What kind of role did video play in your recruiting, you think?
A lot of my videos that I posted on Twitter were bullpen videos, just kind of showing every pitch. But I also did a few game highlight videos. Um, my biggest one that gained a lot of traction from coaches was my game against US Elite. I pitched 5 innings, had about 2, 3 hits, maybe one run. Definitely one of my best games that I've pitched. And to kind of put that stat line and show the clips, I had it edited by NCSA. It really got a lot of coaches looking at me and talking to me. I mean, thankfully that video got 4,000 views, I believe, before my account got suspended. But I mean, that just those videos. I mean, even my workout videos were hitting 1,000, 2,000. So it all helped, and it also really depended on who I was tagging. I was tagging Flat Ground, NCSA, Uncommitted Baseball. I was tagging all those Twitter pages, and those retweets really helped, allowing it to see more coaches and for them to follow me to see everything else.
Sure. So talk to me about how for someone maybe who hasn't had the communication, walk through maybe pick some of the schools that were there towards the end and how the communication process worked with them. Hey, it started as a DM on Twitter, or hey, I reached out via email, and then we went to, hey, they wanted me to call them, and it was like a weekly call. Or how did that work from kind of beginning to end? Maybe pick out a couple schools and talk how that worked.
It definitely was different for every school, and I was kind of surprised by that. Um, my first offer was a school up in Boston, Anna College, and the coach texted me first. Actually, he was a coach I emailed in the winter months, and he said, "Hey, love what I see. I'll be in touch with you in the next few months." And he found me on Twitter, DM'd me right away, and said, "Hey, would love to get you in my pitching rotation next year." And cell phone numbers, started texting that way, calling, and he definitely, for the first few months, was definitely calling me at least every other week, just kind of getting updates on what I was doing. Um, and I was definitely surprised about that. I would have thought it was more like a call maybe once or twice and then emails and texts from there on out. But he definitely communicated and really showed that he wanted me. And I definitely noticed that was the coaches that were more interested and more eager to get me to visit or give me an offer were constantly texting me, always calling. Another coach or another school I was talking to was St. Andrews University down in North Carolina. Um, that head coach really tried to, and I shouldn't say he really tried to. He was really trying to be a friend to me, and he wasn't trying to make it that, oh, I'm just the coach. He really was trying to like talk to me about other things. We were always calling. Um, and that was one thing I also noticed was that they would be personable with you. The coaches that they had some interest or really weren't that interested at all when it got down to it, kind of got generic and kind of just said like kind of played as the coach. But you could definitely tell from the coaches that are really interested, they'll be trying to friend you and trying to like not just be the coach, like also to be a friend.
Sure. So, what advice would you have for, let's say, either maybe a middle school or a freshman player just entering the high school ranks? So, what would be some good pieces of advice as they start their recruiting journey?
Really at this point, if you're a freshman or even a middle school, unless unless you're number 5 in the country at this point, you have time to develop, you have time to play, to lift. I would definitely say your first couple years live in the weight room in the winter. Um, I can definitely say that weight training and just lifting as much as possible really helped me become a whole lot better. But don't freak out if you're not getting that interest your sophomore, junior year. Like I said, I didn't get my first offer till July going into my senior year. So you just have to trust that if you think you're good enough, you are. There's definitely somewhere in the country where you can play. I believe there's over 5,000 colleges and universities that have baseball teams. If you put the work in yourself and you invest the time to getting better and you put time to talk with these coaches, you'll find a place to play.
As you were looking for, obviously your travel teams going to certain tournaments and things like that, were there any other events, showcases that you went to that you thought were really beneficial to your efforts?
Yes, I got to give a shout out to Best in the US showcases. They're they were a company I kind of found out about in the spring, summer of my junior year, or my senior year, my bad. Um, but they are a showcase like no other. I've gone to PBR, Perfect Game, some other Division 1 showcases. Um, I went to my first event. It was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Maples Sports Complex, I believe it's called. And on their website, I got their email and it said 75 coaches guaranteed. And I was like 75 coaches a lot. Like I think the most coaches before that was like 10 I've seen at a showcase. So I was kind of skeptical about it, but I was like, I haven't signed up for any showcases yet. If there really are 75 coaches there, it'll be a great opportunity. If it's not, it's still a fun experience. I showed up the first day because it was 2 days, and the backstop had 2 rows, 2 or 3 rows just full of coaches. I couldn't believe it. Of course, I was emailing and texting all these coaches before, and I was starting to see more and more that they were going, but just seeing like showing up, I think they sent out the list. I think there was 87 coaches at that event. It was just mind blowing. And talking with the owner, Nolan Mansfield, he's a great guy. He really cares about guys getting to play at the next level. They don't do rankings or anything. They just post your metrics. They post your video. It's a 2 day. The first day is a combine. And then the second day you get placed on teams and playing games, and they live stream the games. They have the blast motion, the trackman, the Rapsoda. They have all of that. It's really, in my opinion, the best showcase company in the country. And for anyone that's looking to go to a showcase where you'll see Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, JUCO, NAIA coaches, they are the guys to go to because they offer a wide variety. I've been following with them. I think for most of their events, they have already 100 coaches going to each event. I went to 2 of them, and I would say probably out of my 20 offers, I'd say 15 came from their 2 events. So they really care about getting guys to play, and I don't think without them I would have as much interest and the connections I definitely made from those showcases.
So you were talking about a little strategy there. You mentioned reaching out to those coaches that you knew or could possibly be at that showcase event prior to going. Talk to me a little bit about that strategy and how that played out.
So I kind of thought of that thinking like because it showed you the list of the coach's name and the school they were from. And the great thing I used with NCSA was looking up schools, and it would tell you all the coaches on the roster and their email and if they were on the site. So I would go through every school. I would email them if they had an email on NCSA. And then right after I emailed them saying I was going to be at the event, really looking forward to meet them, I would go on Twitter and follow them. And if you could send a DM to them, I'd be like, "Hey, coach, I know you're probably busy with emails right now. I just sent you an email. I'm going to be at the Best the US event in Philadelphia. Really hope to see you there." And just kind of that. It would take a few hours out of my day. I would definitely probably took me 2 weeks to probably send all those emails to the 75 coaches, but I mean, even sending 75 emails, I probably heard from 30 of them back. And I consider that a win because that's 30 more coaches I have a connection to now. And and even if they didn't respond back to me and they just opened my email, that was 30 to 75 coaches that knew my name and that I was going to be at that event. And I definitely think it really helped because just saying I was going to those showcases sparked interest because then they would go on my Twitter and see my video or on my NCSA and see my video. So they got that initial um, profile of me and what I could offer. And then I could just go out there and be myself and not have to worry about doing something to get a coach's attention because I already had that attention.
So how did you when you came down to the end and you were looking at, multiple schools, how did you determine your best fit? What were some of the factors that you were really looking at, and how did you know Frostburg State was the right place?
So definitely my number one was location. There were some schools I was looking at that the more I thought about it, yeah, it would be nice to be somewhere new, but I'm an hour and a half from home. I'm an hour and a half from all my friends who are going to schools in West Virginia. I'm going to be playing college baseball against 7 of my high school teammates and the travel ball teammates. So it kind of really was that home away from home, in my opinion. again, the facilities and just the goals and the mindset the coaches had and what they could do with the resources they had, it really shows that from a Division 3 school that was very successful at the Division 3 school or at the Division 3 level, they show that they're ready to put in the work and they have the dedication and they're getting the kids to make them a good Division 2 team. I mean, I've been looking at my our 2021 class and it's an absolutely amazing class. Um, but also, again, just the school itself, the school really kind of blows your mind being there. Even though we didn't get to see classrooms and dorms, it was they really put the money towards showing that they care about their students there. And again, my parents liked it because they can come bug me whenever they feel like it, and I guess when I need to be home, I can come home whenever I feel like it. So that again was just all a plus. So all around, it really just seemed like the best fit for me. Um, the role they have me in, they see me as a guy that everyday reliever coming out of the pen. That's something I love doing. I love watching the game. I love figuring out the hitters, figuring out what's happening in the game before I go in. I was telling them my big thing on my visit was I'm the type of pitcher I can start for you. I can relieve for you when you have bases loaded, 2 outs, and we're up by one, or I can come in and close the game when it's the ninth inning, we're up by one, and we need to hold a lead. I mean, I told him I love every single situation, just being out there on the mound. I love, I just love being out there. I won't say no to a situation. I even told him I won't say no to a role. I told him the only position I'd kind of be skeptical at and wonder why they're putting me there is catcher. But anywhere else, I mean, I've played all 9 positions on the baseball field. It doesn't scare me. I'm gonna go out there and play the best baseball I can. So they really loved that mentality out of me, and they loved that they could put me in any situation and know that I'll perform.
Excellent. So, any funny recruiting stories along the way? Any site visits that went bad, or any travel team stories you want to share? Maybe throw some shade on somebody.
Um, I would say probably, and I guess this is kind of, I think it's a funny story, but it kind of is an eye-opening story for other people. Like when I told people, they didn't believe me. Um, I went to a second best in the US event. This was in like August, I believe. It was one of their last ones. They put it together like a couple weeks before. The guys texted me. They said, "Hey, we have an open spot for a pitcher. We'd love for you to come down and throw." So, I mean, that was probably 3 days before the event. The next day, me and my mom were getting in the car, driving down to North Carolina for the event. But I didn't talk to any of the coaches there. I didn't know really the list of the coaches who were going to be there. I got the list the night we arrived at the showcase. Um, so I was kind of scrambling to follow some guys. I wasn't really sending out emails, but we were doing BP on day one, and I was kind of just out in right field. There was a few guys talking to the like around me, but no one was really paying attention. Guys were just kind of going after balls like carelessly, and there was a few balls that were hit to me. I would just sprint right to it, or I would try to make a diving catch. I was just doing it. I was having fun out there, but I was really hustling for baseballs. And I walk off the field, and a coach pulls me over, and it's the pitching coach at University of Virginia Wise. And he pulls me over. We started talking. We probably talked for 20 minutes, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "I'm really not here to look for 2021s, but I called our head coach when you guys were hitting BP, told him about the hustle. I saw you pitch." He goes, "We want to offer you a spot." And he offered me a spot right there after just that 20-minute conversation. He goes, "If it wasn't for you hustling out there, you were the kid that was hustling the most out there." He goes, "That's what we need at our program. We need guys that will come in right away and hustle like that." And I'm kind of just sitting there like I'm kind of just shocked that I just got an offer like that. Like the coach didn't even know who I was till probably a half hour ago. And I mean, it really just kind of shows you Just being yourself and hustling, it can really do a lot. Like I said, I mean, I got a college offer out of it. I got a Division II college offer out of it. So I've always thought that was funny, and I even tell that story now to people, and they don't believe me. They're like, "There's no way, like, that you got an offer just for hustling."
Well, they also saw you throw, so
Yeah,
you gotta mix that part in there.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, you know, in my years of baseball, the lefty guys were always they always did weird things, man.
Hmm.
They always were the guys on the back of the bus doing weird things, man.
Yeah,
So to all my old lefty teammates out there, they know who they are listening. Here we go. We got another lefty pitcher letting it all out there. Well done.
man.
Well done.
It's
Well,
funny
listen,
you
buddy,
said
I
that's
appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. We got Will Ricketts, 2021 left-handed pitcher out of Jefferson High School, heading down to Frostburg State to play some baseball here in the fall. What do you got planned this summer? You got anything going on this summer?
Um, I mean, with our high school season getting extended, I mean, we're hoping to be in Charleston June 24th through 26th. So
There you
that
go.
really takes up the month of June for me. But other than that, we got some local travel teams. We got our Legion team that we're trying to put together, just go to some tournaments over the summer. But I've been kind of saying that it just depends how much I'm pitching over the spring. I don't want to continue it and then go into the fall, but I'm definitely going to be playing some baseball in the summer. I definitely got some senior trips planned out just to relax and hang out with some friends before we all go off to college. But I'm really just gearing up for the fall. I can't wait to get up there. I can't wait for the atmosphere. I've been looking for it since the day I called Coach Williams and said I'm coming up to the school. And really, it's just I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent, man. Hey, dude, like I said, man, I really appreciate you spending some time with us tonight. Thanks, Will.
Of course, it was a pleasure.